Ben Farrell, CEO of CIPS, made this post: why procurement should perhaps become a licensed profession, and is it time? Now, to be fair to Ben, he's doing a great job trying to bring forward the professional organisation that is CIPS and trying to work on behalf of procurement. So this debate isn't about the person, it's about the theory, one that's been thrown back in my face every time I challenge the value of CIPS. So I'm going to answer that for you today. Ben has made a reasonable point here and he's asked the question, but I'm going to explain why we shouldn't be treating procurement in the same way as, for example, medicine or accountancy or the legal field. Quite frankly, by the way, there are laws that govern those professions because it is to protect people, whether that's to protect their health, whether that is to protect their finances. There have to be certain standards there because that is about protecting the individual. Same with legal. You wouldn't go, by the way, to a doctor who isn't licensed because you need to know that they've had all those background checks. It's a really fundamental service. The comparison doesn't stack up when you're looking at procurement. Rightly so, any organisation, certainly within the private sector, can appoint a director to make a decision on a contract tomorrow, and that isn't regulated in the same way. Now, of course, we want to make sure that we hold standards of companies to a high level, but to protect that in law, is that really where we want to go? It just doesn't compare. I think the comparison is not the right one. Now, I know I get lots of procurement professionals who say, how can this be called a profession if it's not licensed? Like, you have to have a qualification. I would argue against that. In most fields, in sales, marketing, in procurement is no different. Of course, there are qualifications you can gain, but we shouldn't be making it a legal requirement. Now, in fairness to Ben, I think his debate has always been around licensing leadership positions, but I would like to think that we have a much more diverse ability to be able to attract the best talent. Just by measuring by qualifications is exactly the wrong thing, and here's why it's the wrong thing. CIPS itself, albeit a good grounding in procurement, it does not define whether you're going to be good at procurement or not. I'm going to let that hang there a minute because I know some of you might disagree with that, but some of the best, and I mean elite level, leaders in procurement don't have MCIPS. I've met them, I've worked with them. They have gone on to lead some of the world's global procurement functions and done so brilliantly. How is that the case? Because actually what drives success in procurement is your impact. So your ability to be able to build good, effective supplier relationships, to be able to have impact internally, so be able to use your soft skills to develop your influence, to be able to drive impact in your organisation. None of that can be tested in a CIPS exam. Same with integrity. Now, this is a big one, integrity. It's one that people don't talk about enough. But do they follow through with actions that underpin the words that they say? Can you trust them to make the right decisions, the right objective decisions on behalf of the organisation? Integrity is such a core skill for procurement professionals, and again, it cannot be tested by a qualification or by sitting in an exam room. You could have someone who does brilliantly in the CIPS exams, who gets flying colours, gets distinction level, but when it comes to them actually practicing procurement, who's to say they're going to act with integrity? It's not fair and it's not right that we should be making something so fundamental licensed when it's not testing the right thing. I want to point to the fact that it's real experience that defines how good you are as a leader. The other thing I'd say about leadership is the best leaders in organisations, they're not people who are the best qualified. They're the people who are able to galvanise teams, who are able to share a vision, who are able to inspire, who are able to innovate, who are able to lead a business forward, and who are able to coach others to be successful. Again, the thought of making that licensed, making that all dependent on a qualification, nah, it's a no for me. Now, it's worth calling it for what it is, and I want to give absolute respect to Ben because I know that he's positioning the debate. He's doing a lot to try to promote the profession, and that's great. It's worth calling it as it is. This is CIPS, the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply, making a case for it becoming a licensed profession, which would clearly only benefit them from a point of view of the commercials. Let's call it as it is. A qualification looking for the profession to be licensed, that's not really in the interests of procurement, that's in the interests of the organisation. It would be like a software vendor arguing every company should be legally required to buy software. It's the same shape of the conflict. I just want to be clear on that, and let's just call out the bias that might exist. I've already alluded to what makes a procurement professional really successful and really effective. My worry is if you start licensing the profession, you're actually going to be shrinking the talent pool. Now, I don't care whether you're 55 years old and you've never worked in procurement, or whether you're just fresh out of school or fresh out of university. If you've got commercial acumen, you've got a desire to do the right thing, you've got curiosity, and you act with integrity, those are the people that we need to be promoting into procurement. Those are the people that we need to be identifying as future leaders. Not whether you've managed to spend 5 years knuckling down to read textbooks and to fund exams and to learn the theory. It should be open to anyone. We shouldn't be restricting access to great people. And now more than ever, the profession needs to widen the net, to bring in more people, to excite people into the profession, because we've got so many challenges coming up. We've already seen the impacts of the environmental, social and governance objectives that businesses are leaning on procurement to deliver more on. We know that there is a massive challenge as we integrate AI into the normal way of doing business. But we've got the fragile supply chains, we've got all the macroeconomic political situations which are making procurement an even more pivotal role to businesses in the future. So why should we be shrinking the pool at a time that we need to bring in the best talent from as far afield as possible? License the profession, and all you do is you gatekeep people out, or you force them through years of study that really isn't necessary for them to do a job they're probably already good at. The barrier as well that I made in this video here around the fact that it costs upwards of £3,000 to £10,000 to actually get a professional qualification via the MCIPS channel. Why should we be restricting access to individuals to being able to achieve a leadership role just because they haven't been able to fund that? The best procurement individuals I've worked with, very often they don't actually have CIPS. Now, that doesn't mean that I think CIPS is a bad thing, but I don't know what I'd say if the licensing of the profession stopped good people like that from being in procurement leadership roles. The other thing worth noting is there's no real way to enforce it properly. So what I'm saying here is doctors get struck off if they broke an objective, documented clinical standard. Lawyers get, I think the term is disbarred for breaching a defining statute or code, but what's the equivalent malpractice in procurement? Now, you can probably shout at this video and say, well, it's doing this or doing that, but who's actually objectively making the decision around that? Because we all know, particularly in the private sector, that there is a vast difference in terms of the standards and the regulations around how procurement is governed. You can't run a tribunal on who should be disbarred and who shouldn't be, or who should be struck off based on an individual error. The other thing I just don't like about it is just imagine the pressure that procurement professionals would feel. I mean, to a certain extent, that's already there in the public sector when you think about all of the Procurement Act that has to be followed and all of those regulations. But just imagine if you feared for the future of your profession if you made one mistake. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think procurement should be taken seriously or we don't try to do a good job, but it just doesn't bear the same equivalent, because no one is going to die, or at least they shouldn't die, if you make a mistake in procurement. I'm going to say the safeguard that Ben wants already exists, and it still doesn't stop failures. So in public procurement, for example, there are those safeguards with a Procurement Act that are very often used to kind of create some kind of standardization. And yet you've seen the public failures around procurement, even in the last few years, that have existed. I'm not saying that the Public Procurement Act isn't useful and we shouldn't be having those globalized standards, but still businesses fall foul of them. So I'm not sure that it creates a safeguard that Ben is already suggesting would be there. So here's where I actually land on this debate. I'm not against procurement being taken more seriously. I want that. In fact, the whole reason I started writing on LinkedIn was because of that. The whole reason I started to create these YouTube videos was to be able to start perhaps giving people more access to procurement, help simplify it, help people get 1% better every week, but also to help advocate for the profession. But you can earn legitimacy by proving competence through track record. That's what I did. And by fixing who can actually access qualifications like MSIPS, not by putting a legal rock on the door and calling it a standard. So I think that there should be so much more that CIPS could be doing to make something like MSIPS qualification more accessible to those who can't afford it, or to changing the way the dynamic of CIPS is delivered so that it's not all exam based, it's not theory based, it's not textbook based, it doesn't require hours and hours of research in a classroom, that it starts measuring actual competence more. Now I know that there's a long way to go there. Treat MSIPS as one useful checkpoint when hiring. And when I say checkpoint, it doesn't mean you exclude someone who hasn't got MSIPS. My goodness, that would be a ridiculous decision to make. By the way, about 40% of companies do that, and it's unbelievable. I still can't believe today's era we're still saying that. Use it as a useful checkpoint, but invest the real money in the soft skills that are actually what are required to do the job well. Licensing solves a problem that procurement doesn't have, which is unqualified people causing public harm with no accountability. What procurement actually has is an investment problem. Not enough time or budget going into developing commercial judgment in the people actually doing the job. And that's far more important now in the world of artificial intelligence than ever. And here's some final thoughts. I'm not against standards. I'm against licensing as being the fix. And so if you've worked with someone brilliant at this job who never had a professional qualification, I'd love you to let me know in the comments. Remember, subscribe to Procure Bytes. I write a newsletter, get 1% better at procurement every week, and I can't wait to see you in the next videos here.